Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, so first line on the agenda is the approval of agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, approval of minutes from July 27th regular meeting. Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 3, accounts payable and payroll.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the accounts payable and payroll, all in item line 3.
Second.
I got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 4, public requests. Do we have any public requests at this time? This is where you have the chance to speak if you have something to say. And would you please state your name when you get up there, please?
Good morning. My name is Shawnee Spanderford.
Hey, Sean, mash that little green, see if it turns green. Is it green? There you go. Perfect.
Green. It is green. And there's a group of us that it's been heavy on our heart to proclaim Roosevelt County to God. We have worked on a proclamation. We adopted it from Bailey County. We've already shared it with the ministers in Roosevelt County. We have shared it with some of the public. We're going to be at the county fair for people to be able to participate in this proclamation. And that at some point we're going to read this proclamation from our courthouse steps. And then we're going to bury it at entrances into Roosevelt County. And the purpose of it is the proclamation is declare our county for the kingdom of God for the mutual benefit of its citizens by obedience to the word of God, the American Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and the Declaration of Independence. You know, this is something that has been heavy on lots of our hearts, but I tell you what, last night it was solidified at the Bertalla School Board meeting. It was solidified that we are in a battle. We're in a battle here. And we have tyranny going on in our state. We have a governor who is putting fear into people so that elected officials cannot even make a decision based on what the people are wanting. I am so thankful we had one bold man stand up last night and voted what he knows that God intended, the oath he swore last night that when he went into office. Rod, thank you so much for being the voice for the people and not being fearful. I just, I don't believe they voted for what the parents were wanting last night. They didn't vote for what the people were asking them to vote for. They voted out of fear. They voted out of fear of a governor that has an evil agenda, and she does not love the people of this. I'm sorry, I'm getting off on something else. I need to leave that alone. Anyway, so thank you, Mr. Savage. And so I just want us to be able to continue to say that we are living in the land of the free and the home of the braves, but maybe we live in the land of the free because of the brave. And I used to equate that to men that have gone to war for us. But you know what? Right now, we're in a war. We're in a war. And so I would like to just share with you the proclamation. I've printed it off for you to take home, commissioners, and to look over. We've added scripture, Bible verses, words from our founding fathers, the Constitution to back this up, and then just a little letter explaining our heart behind this, explaining it to you as leaders. And so we are lifting you up in prayer. You're in a tough time. You're serving during a tough time. And I thank you for that service. You're answering God's call for being his servants. So I just wanted to share this information with you. We will be letting you know when we will be having the send-off from the courthouse. And when it will be proclaimed, we'll be sending you a personal invitation. So thank you for your service, and we're lifting you up in prayer.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay.
Good morning,
Morning.
commissioners and city official or county official. Sorry, I'm still stuck on the city. I'm here just to speak to you, not necessarily professionally, but sort of professionally. A little bit of not really concern, but wondering a little bit about the cannabis ordinance that you're looking at today, and just thinking a little bit about with my job in the prevention profession, and I've had to learn this also as a teacher. We did the same thing. You do a lot of prep before you make a decision on a rule or an ordinance or a law. And I guess I'm a little, concerned. Have you really studied, prepared? And I'm not trying to judge. I'm just asking, because like if I look at some data, we have an evaluator with the DWI program that helps me look at ways we need to change our strategic plan for this county for how we deal with prevention, whatever it is, alcohol, cannabis, tobacco, you name it. And there's steps that you take to look at those strategies and change those and adapt them, adopt them, and bring them on board. And I'm just wondering if those steps have been taken. Also, like for my job and for your job, we all answer to somebody. I have a task force that I take my information to, and it's not a Darla show. It's got to be a group decision, and it needs to be a broad a group of people looking at it. And I think that is another concern I have with the ordinance. Has a broad group of people looked at it, talked about it, been given the opportunity to mill it around and compare it to current laws. I haven't seen it in hand. I haven't had a chance to read it. I've heard some about it, and there's parts of it that's a little concerning to me. And it's not that I'm in favor of cannabis. I'm not. I'm a little concerned that it might compromise some of our DWI laws, some of our, um, and law enforcement are probably here. They may be outside, but make it even tougher for things to be overturned if we're not careful with what all ordinances we have. And like I said, I'm not trying to be judgmental. I would like to see, I know you have until September possibly to make a decision and have a policy in place, have an ordinance in place. If you might think about pulling back just for a bit and having some public input or comment, or I would take it to my task force that we're having a meeting the 25th, take it to different areas that it might affect the way we do business in this county. Just a thought. I'm not trying to pressure anybody. I just wanted that it's just a little concerning to me. That's all.
Thank you. Anybody else? None? Okay. Thank you guys very much. I appreciate it. Okay, moving on. Item 5, elected officials and department heads. Employee recognition, Ms. Souls.
Madam Chairman, would you please help me? You want me to hold you? Yeah, hold me up, please. Y'all probably get tired of hearing me, but our employees are our greatest asset at this county. Without the employees, there would be no services to provide to the citizens of the county. So that said, I would like to recognize Ms. Nath Baca for 20 years of service to the county. She was our chief deputy clerk. Oh, smile, Justin, need you.
Sure. Somewhere this is on Amber's to-do list, I promise. Thank you, ladies.
She doesn't ever have a
Okay, for 5 years of service, Mr. Martin Williamson with our sheriff's office. Protect and serve.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
He takes care of my part of the county.
We've got a road guy, Mr. Jason McDonald's been here 5 years. He is unable to join us today, but Miss Liliana Rivera, 3 years of service to our finance. Without Lily, the bills wouldn't get paid, the budget wouldn't get done. Payroll would not be done. That's important. Mr. Sergeant Backler from the detention center is unable to be here. She had to work last night. But we have Miss Jazz Wattis from our detention center. She has been with us 1 year.
Oh.
Are you smiling, Jess?
Oops. I'm gonna give this one
I
to this
do.
person because she's,
And this is for Miss Deborah Oles for 5 years.
5
Yes,
years.
yes.
5 years. I know. Thank you.
Oh, he's got to get a picture.
Oh.
Everybody else did a good job except for you.
I try. I really try. Oh, sorry, I messed up your cones.
I can set them up there.
Carol. Keep you lined out.
Where'd you guys put them? I was right over here.
Thank you all.
I think
Thank
they're good
you.
For you. I like it.
Okay, next is Sheriff's Office, Lieutenant Sanchez.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Morning, Commissioners. First of all, just want to say a special thanks to Commissioner Savage for his efforts at the Portales Public Schools last night. We appreciate you. So just on behalf of myself and my wife, who is an educator, I just want to say thank you. So that being said, I asked Ms. Hamilton to put us on the agenda today to speak about Deputy Williamson. And I had to send him off because I wanted to talk about him. So Deputy Williamson has given about 45 years of his life to public service. So he is retired Air Force. When he retired from the Air Force, he went over to the Clovis Police Department, where he spent 20 years, retired from Clovis Police Department, and came over to our agency, where he is now finally well-deserved, going to retire completely out and be done. So that being said, we are wanting to see if the county would be willing to donate, or I'm not sure, and I think it'll be maybe a Randy question, something to find a way to give him his duty weapon, his service weapon that he has used the entire time he's been here at Roosevelt County. So the only agency that I know that does that is Roswell PD. They had a gentleman that retired in December, and they were able to donate his service weapon to him. So I'm not sure exactly how that works as far as disposition of the firearm, or how we'd go about that.
Let me follow up with Roswell and see how they're doing it. I mean, the anti-donation question is what comes to my mind. If they're doing it, I'm sure their attorneys have found a way to accommodate that. So if there's a way, I'll certainly try to find it.
That would be greatly appreciated. And other than that, I'll stand for any questions that y'all have on that. He is retiring at the end of this month. His last day, the 31st, but he was going to take a couple of days off in that time frame. So I'm not sure when his actual last work day is. We're trying to figure out scheduling so he can have a couple days off.
Sorry.
Thank y'all, commissioners. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next up, Treasurer's Office.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners.
Good morning.
Today I will report on your June 30th cash balances in the general fund. Your beginning cash was $4,163,688.30. You had $538,530.50 worth of debits, and you had $750,912 worth of credits, leaving your ending general fund cash balance of June 30th of $3,951,306.86. Does anyone have any questions of our cash balances from the treasurer's report? Okay. As I reported the last meeting, the state is in our office working the delinquent tax list. We have about 16 properties that will go for auction as of today. They, of course, have up to 24 hours of the sale date to get those paid. The tentative sale date is September the 14th right now. Does anyone have any questions of the delinquent property?
You have a list already published? Or
It is
will
not
be-
published yet. They are working on that. We're currently working on a packet in my office of that list. Can you hear me now?
No, it won't happen.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Right there.
Yeah. No, no question.
No? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next detention, Mr. Porter.
Morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners. The facility
Morning.
count today is 59. There's 46 males and 13 females, currently housing one detainee from another county. Total number of bookings for July was 57. The total number of releases was 51. We're continuing to practice COVID-safe practices. There have been some recent changes as it comes to COVID in the courts. The courts have passed out a directive that was supposed to take effect the 19th of last month, where they're going to be asking for in-custody detainees to appear in person to more court proceedings. There have been some obstacles, some objection to some of this by some of the facilities throughout the state. But I've been working with our local judges on some ways that we could tackle this. The concerns for the facility have to do with, if the detainees are safe, healthy right now, if they come out and have, contact with the public, or even if it's the attorneys or the juries or just the general public walking through the building, that they could come back and possibly be sick. And then that may spread amongst the people that they're with. So those have been some of our concerns. The state Supreme Court has limited it to the number of proceedings or the types of proceedings that they actually need to appear in person, but left some of the ultimate decision to the local judges to make a decision on who they want to see in person and not. So these are some of the things that we're tackling as a detention affiliate, working with the county manager and the judges to try and find a balance, because the concern is that we're going to have what we believe to be safe, clean facilities where everybody's been off quarantine, and then they come to courts, and then they may come back and be sick, and then cause a group of people to get sick, and then the domino effect starts. When we were talking with the New Mexico Department of Health about these practices, the New Mexico Department of Health mentioned that, well, if people come out of the facility after they're off their quarantine process and they have contact with the public, they're recommending that these detainees get re-quarantined, which means that they would be isolated again for 14 days, tested multiple times, which is 3 times, to make sure that they're safe before they're reintegrated back into population. So these are some of the concerns that we're sharing with the courts, and we have some meetings set up, including some meetings with, we hope later this week, next week, with the Supreme Court justices to talk about some of the practices and some of the instances we're seeing across the state with these transports in person. And just to kind of share, the impact to the county is not just to the detainees. It's, if a detainee comes back sick, then they're exposed to our staff. If a detainee comes back sick, they have been exposed to the Sheriff's Department transportation staff. And then they've been exposed to a public defender who's been exposed to every other client that they come in. So it's just kind of a concern that we're bringing, just to want to bring it to their attention. If they want to continue this practice, we're going to do our best to make it as safe as we can and everything. But I just wanted to bring that to your attention, that there's going to be some discussions about this, and you may hear some conversations and some ideas. But right now, with our local judges and the Sheriff's Department transport teams, we've been able to come up with some ideas that we believe can make it the most safe and healthy for our detainee population. But the fear is that we may make the next step where everything goes back to where it was pre-COVID, and we may be too fast. So that's kind of our concern, is like, let's not rush into this just because the state open may not be healthy for the detainees and the essential staff at the facilities and the transport teams and the court teams as well. So there's going to be some conversation. I'm sure that we'll get trackway in the media. So just so you kind of know what's going on. We're still continuing to do a testing of our staff and the detainees throughout, monitoring to make sure everybody's okay, staying healthy, staying clean. The extra COVID cleaning practices are still in place. We're still cleaning the building multiple times throughout the day, living areas. Wanted to share with you that last month we did a vaccine clinic at the facility, and a vaccine was offered to the detainees and staff. This particular vaccine clinic, we offered the in the future. We were able, population agreed to be vaccinated, and then agreed to be vaccinated. So just kind of give you numbers on where we're at on vaccinations inside the facilities, which also brings us back to the concern of you know, do we want to be shuffling people all over to courts and proceedings if the vaccination numbers are so low? And so that's another part of the conversation. Happy to share that 3 officers graduated the academy training last month and have been assigned to shifts. Later next week, we'll be doing a walkthrough with the camera systems that we had approved. So the company's coming in to do the final adjustments. We're going to talk about types of cameras and locations. So we'll be upgrading our security system that you guys had approved. And then lastly, I wanted to share with you that there was 2 transports to Department of Corrections last month. There was 5 females taken and 4 males taken. And with that being said, I'll take any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Justin. Okay, next we've got road.
Juan.
It's Juan. It's not Mr. Lovato.
Hey Juan, how are you?
Pretty good. Okay, so looks like we got approval to move on. So hopefully next week we'll move there when we get done with Road 16. And then the backhoe was down for a while. We were doing cattle guards, but got it fixed. So we should be hopefully next week get back to that too. And we're patching on Road 19, helping up the fairgrounds, and the rest of the blades are scattered throughout the county. That's about it. Mine's short and sweet. So, any questions?
Anybody got anything for him? Thank you very much. Commissioners, does anybody here have anything?
I have a question for Randy. I got a letter in the mail from Miss Shirley, and on U1/2, she was talking about the property lines and how the county comes up there to her property. And she was wondering how the property line is set, if the county can like ease her the rest of the land that's from the road to her property that's not being used, because she is having problems with the local co-ops and stuff stacking stuff on it and everything. I'll bring that letter to you so you can read it, but I don't think that the county has any way to set property lines, is what I was telling her. But
I
I'd
think
bring,
that's correct, and I think the other issue is that the county doesn't typically give legal opinions through the county attorney to private citizens, because then we get into,
so she should
she should
talk to
consult
her
with
own
some
attorney.
people With her own attorney, get her own opinion, because we don't want to have a conflict there. We want-
That's what I
we wanna
believe,
help
but I
her.
wanted to
We want to help
clear.
her, but it's.
Yeah.
It's best if we try to stay, let her come to her own conclusion.
Okay.
Thank you.
I know that's in your deal, but she sent me a letter.
Dennis, do you have anything?
No.
Okay. Moving on to old business. Discussion and consideration of meeting time change. Anybody have anything on it?
I don't discuss no more.
Anybody?
That's me again.
Well, it didn't have to be me. I'll start if
Okay.
you want to.
I believe that our county would benefit by having a well-informed citizenry. We're seeing quite a few problems as if that have occurred and slowly grown on us. It's kind of like we said last night, the frog in the hot water syndrome, that our citizens have entrusted their elected officials to represent them and do what's best for them. They're not worried about it. They've trusted them and trusted them and trusted them until now. We have elected officials who are dictating policy to us, rules to us, and it's grown from government of the people, for the people, by the people. Abraham Lincoln spoke of that in the Gettysburg Address. To government of the people, for the people, by just a little few. I feel that if we had a well-informed citizenry, we would have a better chance of returning the power to the people. But having a meeting 9 o'clock limits a lot of people. And not only that, but I think it's important that students be able to get involved and know, to be taught about government, how it works. And having a 9 o'clock meeting prohibits students from coming unless they attend school. So I think there's some legitimate reasons for changing the time of the meeting. Again, as we talked last week, there's no need in us changing the time of the meeting and asking our employees to take time out of their schedule, make their days longer, if nobody's going to come. Now, the last two meetings, we had quite a few people here, quite a few people speak for a time change. Today, I see nobody here to comment. So I think that raises my concern is why change it? Nobody's going to come. I personally would be in favor of a trial, maybe set up maybe one meeting every 2 months. Then 1 out of 4, we could have a time change. So we could include that in our advertisements so people would know they have an opportunity to speak. Or we could do it, if you care not to do that, perhaps we could do it just for the next, maybe starting next month, have about 2 meetings just to see, are people actually serious about this? Are they actually going to show up? And then make a permit. But the citizens, I was elected by my constituents. I want to represent my constituents. And I have heard a few of my constituents who are for this time change. I have heard no input from my constituents being opposed. So right now I'm leading for somewhat of a time. I think it's worthy of discussion, but I don't think I should be discussing it. This is a commission consisting of 5 members, of which I have grown to respect. I have a huge amount of respect for their opinion, and I think they deserve that. They've earned that respect. So I would like to hear some other. My position is, either make a temporary to see if people are actually interested. I believe actions speak louder than words. Don't come up here and say we want a time change and then nobody. But I want to hear other people's opinion because I respect those opinions from this board. And I'd like to, maybe if you have an opinion on it, I'm open to suggestions. I'm leaning towards a temporary time. But if you're not, speak up, why not?
Anybody else have anything?
Sure. I'll, Madam Chair, members of the board, public. This issue has come up for quite a long time, like I mentioned in the past meetings. I don't believe in inconsistencies, and I think if we start scattering one meeting in the evenings and one day out of the month and one day, it's just going to bring too many inconsistencies. But while doing my homework with this, I actually, number one, appreciate the input, feedback that our county employees gave us on those surveys, number one. Number two, I did get to speak to a lot of my constituents, including a couple of elected officials. I got to speak with several private business owners, on this topic because it's been a topic of issue at times over the last 20 years. I got involved directly in 2000. And the vast majority in the contrary said, you know what, with voter apathy, people don't care. You know, if we have our concerns, we come to you, Commissioner Lopez, we call you, we go by your house. If we want to partake in anything in the past, you've gone on our, and whenever we need have to be in attendance, we find ways to do it. And now, unfortunately, the pandemic there's been some positive come up with it. Now we have IT, we have technology. Chase and his team, they've been able to give access through the internet to our constituents and to Roosevelt County residents and to anybody in the state for that matter. So with that, you know, I'm going to say that the handful of officials that I talked to, only but one was against time change. The other one said, I would like to go to y'all's meetings every once in a while, but I can't because I work in Clovis. But, you know, that's something that I've thought of, just attending and seeing the process. And there may be motives behind that. But with that, I'm kind of just, I have a lot of mixed emotions about this topic because I could see myself working it in both ways. But then again, when you think of a constituency and private business owners through our community and this being a top conversation for at least 30 years and that never changing and things still, in the most part, running smoothly within our county, thank God. I don't know how I'm going to vote, but I haven't heard a motion either.
You have anything?
Pardon me?
I was asking Shane if he had anything to comment.
Well, how do I put this? I think there's going to be problems with late meetings and early. You have young couples with young children. I mean, we're talking young, I'm talking infant, preschool. They're going to have a hard time coming after schools. But in the same thing, people that work during the day, I believe there will be conflicts of interest anytime that you set the date or the time. And like I said, I mean, Dennis hit on a subject that was real good there. If there's something bothering somebody in my area, I'm telling you, they call. I don't know how many of y'all get calls every day. Every day. And I bring it to the board. If there's something, me and one gentleman, we wasn't getting along. I said, well, if you don't like what I'm doing, you're more than welcome to write a letter, bring it to the board, show up, whatever. If you have problems with me, that's your right. So I still like the 9 o'clock meetings. I'm sorry. Because there's a lot of things going on after 5. Are you going to have it at 5:30? You're going to have it at 7 o'clock at night. What day of the week are you going to have it? I mean, there's going to be conflicts of interest no matter when you pick or choose a time. And 9 o'clock, I mean, it works for me. And I've had no complaints about it from my constituents in my area. Nobody's called me for or against it. So that's why I still stand at 9 o'clock on Tuesday.
You want to say?
One thing I have, I'm right along with Shane. I've had one phone call that mentioned it, and nobody else has ever said any one way or the other. And my phone's always open, and I have yet to return a phone call that anybody's ever called. And I try to address, they got a problem, I try to address it. I understand, Shane.
And I have a comment on the subject. I have had a couple of calls on my phone for the time change when they heard about the time change. I'm one of these people that if I have something come up, if I don't have any comment, then that's no comment. I'll go with the majority. So far, the only ones I've had is yes to change the time. I have had no one say anything. That means nothing to me. because they didn't even comment one way or the other. But I do have a few that do want to. We've had them come to the commission that want to. As far as whether or not it continues throughout, that also doesn't mean anything to me. If we change it, nobody shows up, you know what? At least the ones that it did matter to, because right now nobody comes. Nobody does. So if those that do have the opportunity to come, that care to come, have the opportunity, then it's there. If they choose not to, they choose not to, but at least they have the opportunity. And like Commissioner Savage said, along with the kids. I mean, I think that that's very important for our kids to learn how things work. Another thing on it is, well, I guess it's another reason I feel this way, is like, just like our ordinance on marijuana. Ms. Rivera helped me out a lot on that because I could not find where that was posted. People had asked me about it, they saw it on the agenda, but knew nothing about it. Okay, so you see it on the agenda, but you don't know anything, and you're like, okay, so where is that? I looked on the newspaper. I typed in the little search bar the ordinance number. I could not get it to pull up. I couldn't get anything. I called Ms. Rivera. She was super helpful. I go to Eastern New Mexico News, click on legal, and then it'll pop up. To me, that's a whole lot for somebody to know to do that because there's not direction in telling us what we're doing. So to me, that wasn't very transparent of us. And I think little things like that are what have eaten away at people's trust. And I think that's where people are coming from. I'm not saying that we are being, trying to be non-transparent. I'm just saying that when I couldn't even find it, that, you know, and I'm searching and I have to call to figure out how to get there. And then once you get there, you don't actually see the ordinance. That's when you have the opportunity to come in during business hours to pick it up at the courthouse, in the clerk's office. So again, we're still going to fall in with the people at work. I'm sure they could do a public records request. If they want to take it from here, they pay. If they want to view it, it's free. I just feel like we need to have a little bit more transparency in what we're doing. And if my constituents want that to be so they can come to the meeting and see what's going on, then I'm all for that. It doesn't matter to me if it's 1 a month, 2 a month, if it's staggered, it doesn't matter what it is to me. I know that my constituents have asked me to move it. The ones that have asked to move it to the evening. I'm perfectly fine with that.
Madam Chair, just a quick rebuttal on a couple of things that you mentioned. There is oversights, mistakes that are made by county staff, commissioners, of course, but a lot of times it's circumstantial in reference to how you can find that ordinance. The other thing that is worrisome to me about staggering or doing it on a part-time basis, once again, I just see what our staff does from Amber all the way down to every elected official and their staff members, administration, everything else. And I do not want to be at fault for creating inconsistencies within our county government. And right now we're very consistent in the most part. We're not perfect, but we're doing pretty darn good if you look at the past 2 to 3 years, 4 years even. Reference to kids being at our meetings, I love kids. I raised 5 of my own. I have 3 grandkids, and I have a huge family on both sides, mom and dad's side. So anybody who knows me well, I've done for kids all my life. I've done for kids. And in reference to them learning government, you know, what prompted me, honestly, to be a political science and pre-law major from New Mexico State was the fact that I got to take government classes in junior high and high school from very darn good teachers here at Portales High School. I don't know if those have gone away, but it shouldn't take a county commission meeting twice a month for kids to start learning government. I think it should be a parent's role as well. And then teachers that teach us, because we have some great teachers in our district. So with that, you know.
I do want to clarify. I wasn't saying that any of our employees or staff made an error. That's law. I mean, you don't have to do any more than that. And I understand that.
Right.
I wasn't saying that anybody made a mistake. I'm just saying it's hard to find stuff. If you don't know where to look, it's just hard to figure it out.
Well, I don't think it has anything to do with transparency, though. I think we just need to look at the flaws, kind of do an overview of everything, of the do's and don'ts, what we can do to be better at things with our IT people, our staffers, and go from there. But yeah, it's frustrating for the public if they can't find information that is a hot topic. And obviously it's a very hot topic with the very short deadlines.
I have one other. If one of my fellow commissioners wishes to make a motion on this, I'll request they make the motion with the time and date they would like the meeting to be held at.
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to change the meeting to evenings. Stick with Tuesday, change it to 6 o'clock in the evening. And I don't know, I do believe that we have to post a time change like that so many days. So I don't think it can be at the next meeting. I don't think it can take effect.
That's correct.
It would have to be after
That is
that.
correct.
So I would say and we don't have any more in August, so September. I would say starting in October.
And I'm not sure because annually we post open meetings notice as to when our meetings are going to be. And so I need to look at the statutes to confirm that I'm just not clear as I sit here and think about that, if we can just do that automatically. I assume we can, but just subject to that.
Okay. Well, I'll make a motion subject to that unless it changes by law that we're not allowed to, that we move the meetings to 6 p.m. on our regular Tuesdays, just move it to 6 p.m. starting in October, the first meeting in October. I thought ours were staggered with city council.
They started to be, I think, because we got off during one of our budget workshops or one of those ICI, something we got off, but I think we're going to probably be back on track with them.
They're on first and third.
So
Okay.
they are.
And we're
Then we'll
supposed to be
go
on first
to
and third.
second
by-
and fourth. I'll go to second and fourth.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Commissioner Greider?
No.
Commissioner Savage?
Yes.
Yes,
No.
No,
motion fails. New business. 7A, presentation of the 2023-27, the discussion on the ICIP working document. Mr. Costa Flores and commissioners.
Good morning, Commissioners.
good morning.
So it's time again to do the Infrastructure Capital Improvement Plan. And it will be 2023 through 2027. We have a hard copy of the projects. The top 5 projects are the main ones that are looked at for capital outlay. And so the way they're numbered now is 1 through 12, but we can change the ratings on that. So I've added 3 new projects. I edited the one for Fairgrounds, added another phase, and I added road heavy equipment. And then for Detention Center, 2006 edition improvements. There is a project for every year up to 2026. And I will add roads on for 2027. And roads is always number 1, it seems like. So, but I'm going to get with Ricky for the one for 2027. Do y'all have any questions on these?
If nobody has any questions for, her, I'll make a motion to accept the infrastructure FY 2023-27.
And
I'll second.
Yeah.
Get a motion. in.
It's a draft, so.
right,
I'm-
this is
I'm
a
gonna-
working document, right?
Yes,
That
it's
was
a
gonna be my
working
next
document,
question.
so.
So we're not ready for the finalization of it.
No, the finalization will be
Oh,
at the
okay,
next
sorry.
meeting. And this is a draft for y'all to look at, and if you want any changes in it, let me know, and we'll edit.
Can you,
Thank you.
my fellow commissioners, can y'all try to help me with my bad memory? But we had talked about a project at one of our meetings, probably last or the one before that, that we would have to move up on the ICIP plan. Do y'all remember? Did it have to do with the fairgrounds?
Yeah,
my
she was
fence?
wanting to move your fence.
Fence.
Well, we're not going to call it fence. We're gonna, I want the fairgrounds. I want the enhancement of the fairgrounds to replace
Yeah,
that
and I
institutional.
think, is that
Looking
not
fence.
what we, is that not
Chain
what we, put in here, Dennis?
I think so. If it's
the-
fair,
On
The master
Hello,
improvement
Seven.
plan?
yeah, but it's not still in 5, 1, 2, 3, 4.
No, it's not. That's in
Yeah,
seven.
it is, excuse me, it is on the Fairgrounds Master Improvement Plan.
Mhm.
I've added a fence, and Gary's getting me an
Okay.
estimate.
Perfect.
But it's seventh on the list.
Yeah,
Dennis.
maybe-
Well, for now, I mean, you,
Put it on.
we can.
Oh, I know.
change
That's what
ranges.
he's
Okay.
complaining about.
Thank
I
you,
thought we
guys.
discussed this last time.
We did. It's just I didn't have a lot going on since then. Since this morning, I've had a lot going on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We already had public on this.
Yes.
Do we have anything else on this?
Yeah.
Y'all have any comments on this? Okay. Okay. Item 7. B. On 7B. Discussion and consideration of submitting a written response in regarding the lesser prairie chicken on behalf of the commission. So I was going to have a gentleman come and speak to y'all on this because he is like, but anyway. So they're asking us if we want to submit any comments on this. Amber and I had talked about this and getting this on. I have a couple of things I wanted to tell y'all. We're doing it to list or to change the listing criteria. Change the listing criteria from endangered to threatened, which would be much less harsh. So in all of that, we all know what we've been through with the lesser prairie chicken. It's also been said that it's not as much of says the USWS efforts management have often been flawed and are ineffective. 2 documents produced by the Sutton Avian Research Center are cited, patent 2005, and these data are mythology behind these publications are so flawed that the New Mexico U.S. Representative Steve Pierce used these publications as an example of flawed science at the public input meeting held by the U.S. FWS in Roswell, New Mexico. The assumptions made when analyzing the data gathered without being sustained are enough to question validity. This is a super long message, but basically, they like our we have several of them in prairie chicken habitats in Roosevelt County. The wind turbines are an issue because of the fact that they make noise that scares them, our oil and gas, all of these things. So anyway, we just want to submit a comment on if we want to submit a comment on to change it from the endangered to the, is it from endangered to the, listing from endangered to threatened? Because they're wanting to list it as endangered instead of threatened. We would like to go back to threatened.
Madam Chair, you're still in this committee, right?
Yes.
Representing the county? I'll go with your recommendation.
If y'all remember 6 years ago, we was having the same conversation. In that, this is very, very, not a dangerous thing, but costly to the county. This could cause the way your co-ops put in their electric lines, the way we blade the roads, if you want windmills on your farm, air turbines. It can also change building fences, because when they endanger this or put it on the list, move it up the list, it's going to be quite the change of life for our rural community. So at any time that we can support not to get them on the endangered list, I believe this county should support that.
Madam Chairman, I've had the opportunity to work for the BLM 2 different summers, participating in the evaluation of prairie chicken habitat. Any opinion I have on that, bear in mind, it is an opinion.
Okay.
Their method of prairie chicken habitat evaluation is designed by some tree huggers type. Much of that evaluation system makes absolutely no sense. The way method that they evaluate their plants and the percentage of different plants on different sites. I couldn't see any much value to their evaluation system at all. What I did notice was at that time, it's been a couple of years ago, the prairie chicken, number of prairie chickens on the Lex were improving, growing, were gaining numbers. Prior to that time, the opinion of the people that I was working with that the decline in prairie chicken numbers was due to a severe storm we had about 4 years ago, a winter storm, an extreme blizzard killed a lot of prairie chickens. But the prairie chicken numbers fluctuation can be attributed more to weather. If we get a good year, some rainfall, and we can have some plants and some bugs for the little chickens, the numbers will go up. We have at that time, those little chickens are hatched off. If we don't have some moisture and some bugs, then they go down. But in general, the prairie chicken numbers, I believe, are increasing. And so I would be hesitant to keep it endangered. In addition to that, I believe that our ranchers and farmers are our best conservationists. They're the best stewards of the habitat. They're in, prairie chicken habitat goes along with good stewardship of the land. And these ranchers on the land do not want the land, our natural resources depleted, the welfare of their livestock, their profits depend upon sound management of their resources. These ranchers are the best, they're our best conservationists. So my personal view is let's make the rating as least restrictive on the ranchers as possible, because they've had a very positive attitude in working with the Bureau of Land Management and other conservation groups to do their very best with their resources to improve the species. So I say make the make that rating as least restrictive as possible.
Anybody else have anything? Okay, so does anybody want to make a motion?
Well, real quick, Madam Chair,
Yes.
I apologize. I was trying to read this. I was multitasking. By writing a letter and opinion, what's that going to do? Will it strengthen our
Yes.
stance against it?
Yes.
Yes.
Sometimes with those resolutions, all they are is a piece of paper.
No,
And-
this is just a written response.
Right.
They did have a timeline on when you could do it, but they've extended the time in which you get your written response in because they've asked for written responses. So they've extended the time to get your response in. So they're asking for responses from people.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
that's where we need to decide if we want to submit a response on behalf of the commission.
Ms. Dixon,
Yes.
Commissioner, do you have a response that was written by the coalition that you're with on how they are?
There are a little bit different ones, but there are some templates in there that I could,
I would like,
Madam
Yes.
Chair,
yes.
I just got this from Amber. I'll just read it. She said, Randy may need to clarify. The prairie chickens are currently listed as threatened and vulnerable, but groups are moving to have them listed as endangered. And I
right.
think that's
Yeah,
what you
that's-
said. but
Yes.
just to be sure.
Yeah.
We're clear on the record. Thank
Yeah.
you.
I would like to see a response, if you would, mind,
Okay.
and put it before legal to make sure
Okay.
it sounds good, and then us vote on the response to send it at the next meeting.
Okay.
When
We have-
is the comment window, though, is a limited comment time?
But I think we still have,
September.
it's the first part of September,
It is the
so
first part of
it is the
September.
first. I don't know that we'll have another meeting.
It needs to happen.
Yeah, it needs to happen.
Madam Chair, members of the board, like I mentioned earlier, we did appoint Commissioner Dixon to be on this committee with the Arizona Coalition, right? So I'll entrust her in making the decision and reviewing that letter if need be, unless we need the motion right now. Does it need to be in form of motion, or can our chair and representative do that on our behalf?
Well, you could make a motion, giving Ms. Dixon the authority to draft, to work, to get that drafted
To-
and get it filed.
That's
what
good
I
news.
would suggest. But
Go ahead.
you're-
Since it's your district, you have a lot of-
Okay, well, with that, I will make a motion that Miss Commissioner Dixon, Chairman, write a letter on behalf of the Roosevelt County Board not in favor of listing the prairie chicken as endangered.
Second?
I got a motion and a second.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes,
Yes.
motion carries. Thank you.
thank you, Ms. Dixon.
Resolutions, ordinances, and proclamations. 8A, consideration of resolution 2021-04, affirming our resolute. What?
4-0.
Oh, 4-0, affirming our resolute opposition of the promotion of the race, sex, stereotyping, and scapegoating, and condemning the use of divisive concepts and the theories that propagate such stereotyping and scapegoating. Commissioner Savage.
Madam Chairman, I move for the adoption of 8A.
Did we get a second already?
No,
Okay, motion and a
Paul.
second. Did you say second?
I did.
That's what I thought. A motion and a
Before-
second. All
before
this,
that,
any
I would-
discussion?
I would like to have some discussion. I kind of need to be a little more information on this. I figured where there was already laws against what I understand this to be. If Commissioner Savage would explain to me a little better and what stereotyping, scapegoating of sex is any more than what the federal government has on discrimination. I figure discrimination is against the law, and to me, this is just a discrimination, so.
Oh. Have you read the resolution?
Parts of it, and I still didn't understand. To me,
Yeah,
it's,
that's right.
it's still, just discrimination. I figured our law against discrimination would cover that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think you're exactly right. I think our state constitution and what is set in place by the legislature formally to develop the Constitution definitely states the reason, that it covers discrimination.
Mhm.
The problem is we have grown from that type of legislature to a legislature now that is controlled by liberal left socialists. And the Constitution no longer is the supreme law of the land. They consider statutes to be the supreme law of the land. So, because of the woke movement, which is woke is we need to be aware of our surroundings. And that awareness means that discrimination is inherent in our society. And there are many people being oppressed. That the United States of America is corrupt and needs to be changed. So, along with that, we're in a situation now to where we have a governor who is a liberal person who has been mandating policy to our schools without constitutional authority through the use of statutes. The supreme law of the land is the Constitution, not a statute. The legislature has the authority to pass laws. But in doing so, those laws have to be according to the Constitution. So I feel that the next piece of legislation coming from Public Education Department is going to be for us to include CRT, critical race theory, in our curriculums in our schools. I do not want any student ever in our school system to be taught that they are second class because of the actions of their forefathers. No student is second class, and I don't care what color they are, if they're pink, white, or polka dotted. Those kids need to have a positive self-image. Critical race theories teaches you're white. Because you're white, you're the problem. And you should come to terms with your white privilege. The way I view white privilege is we all grew up poor in Melrose. We were poor as snakes, but we didn't know it because everybody else was too. We all grew up from early childhood. I can remember picking cotton when I was 4 years old before I went to school. Hauling broomcorn seed, plowing, grew up, working. It's hard for me to come to terms with my white privilege. I don't believe there's such a thing as white privilege. To me, I see this as, one of Helen Keller's quotes was, self-pity is our own worst enemy. And though she was deaf and blind, in the later years of her life, she said, I found life so beautiful. I see this woke movement as a bunch of people that are feeling sorry for themselves and need to get down and go to work and enjoy the privileges that they have in this country. We have people flooding our borders because of the opportunities that we can give them in this country. And I think that to teach kids, if you're white, you're privileged. If you're some other color, you're oppressed, is wrong. If our country is failing, it's bad, and it needs to be changed. I think our country is good, offers opportunities for those who want to choose to follow those and take advantage of them. Instead of teaching them that this country is bad and needs to be changed, we need to be teaching kids that this country is the greatest country in the world and it needs to be maintained. So that's why I think that this piece, this resolution should be passed. The woke movement, teaching kids that they should be ashamed of their color, is wrong.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I don't know a whole lot about this topic. I know that it's vested within the powers of our local, state, and national boards, school boards. Number one, I agree with some of the things Commissioner Savage said, but I would love for the record to reflect that his opinion is his opinion. I'm a proud Democrat, but I'm not what you call it, liberal what?
Liberal left socialist.
Exactly. And that's pretty offensive, whether you guys think it's funny or not. Very offensive, actually, because you guys don't know my family
Commissioner Lopez.
and what we're all about. And I'm a Democrat, but I'm not a liberal socialist. I'm far from that.
Commissioner Lopez.
I've got the floor, Madam Chair.
I would like to apologize.
Madam Chair, I've got the floor.
Hang on just a second. Go ahead.
So with that, are you still, Mr. Savage, a school board member?
I am.
Okay, that's what I thought. Second of all, I truly believe should be at this level, it should be a school board issue. And I'm asking why it's even being presented before county government right now. For us to pass a resolution, something that's vested within the powers of school boards. That'd be my question. For or against that doesn't matter. I'm not going to give an opinion whether I'm for or against any of this, but I just don't get why it's even here before us when it's an issue that should be taken up by the Department of Education at every level in the school boards, respective school boards throughout the state and nation.
And now you have.
Okay. Well, first of all, I'd like to apologize to Commissioner Lopez. I failed to choose my words wisely. I had no intent to ever insult you. You have proven yourself as a responsible elected official. I value your counsel and guidance. I do not include you in that statement. And in the future, I will use more caution in the words that I choose because I want you to know I have a huge amount of respect for you. Shane and I have had a brief conversation about the Democrats, and there are many great Democrat people who choose to be that party. Okay? They're good, God-fearing people. So in reflection, I can see how a Democrat might be and justified in my choice and resentment of my chosen words. Because I have many friends that are Democrats. I shouldn't have used those words. I respect your counsel and guidance because you earned it. In the future, I hope that I would choose my words more wisely, and I ask for your forgiveness.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner Savage, and your apologies truly, truly accepted. It really is, and I enjoy working with you as well. And we'll work well together. We're grassroots, but a lot of times we generalize and we shouldn't, because there's a lot of us Democrats that are against a lot of the radical left-wing stuff that's going on. Whether you believe it or not, I'm a true testament, and so is my father. So with that, I will accept your apology.
Thank you.
I have a motion and a second. Commissioner Greider?
Yes.
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 I'm against any form of discrimination. For that, I will vote yes.
Commissioner Lopez?
No.
Motion carries. Removal of request for approval of ordinance. Oh, wait, we need to go into public hearing.
Madam Chair, I make a motion, we go into public hearing?
Second,
Got a motion and a second. Commissioner Lopez?
yes.
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 Motion carries. Okay, request for approval of ordinance 2021-03, an ordinance relating to time, place, and manner of cannabis sales, manufacturing, and consumption. I'll start.
You get after it. I'm gonna look back here so I can find my whereases.
Okay. I realize that this is like extremely controversial and people have opinions and all of that. And I understand all that. And with that, I want to just start out. I am against telling anybody what to do on their private property. We are talking about county. We're not talking about within the confines of any municipality. So with that, I think that the part about the fencing and all of that, just and what you can do on your land, and you have to be so many feet from someone else. I can't pull my thing up.
I
Not
know,
sure
buddy.
why. There we go. So with that, I don't like that. I don't like that at all. I understand that nobody wants to see it and all of that. I don't like the part about the smell. There's other things that stink, and to each his own. But I think I always thought that the what's that ethanol plant thing used to stink, but it was here. And I think when we start putting restrictions on something based on odor, I think we're going to conflict with someone else. We're going to cause a problem with somebody else because we're going to end up getting in trouble because somebody else is like, well, I don't like the smell of this one, and you don't do it here, so you can't do it there. I don't like the requirements for you can't do it. And let me double check. It is 200 feet. I'm trying to skip through quickly. The amount of feet that you can go from a school or daycare, I want to say it's 200 feet, 300 feet. Okay. But it has to be 1,000 feet from a county building. Okay. Well, I would think the daycare would be, more important than a county building. But so I don't agree with that either. 1,000 feet, that's like 3 blocks. And if somebody has a cannabis sales, production, whatever here, but you can't have it for 1,000 feet from somebody else that has it, that's 3 blocks. And if we're talking about real property, that's going to be property line to property line, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, ma'am. And it's
So-
actually, what the ordinance as drafted provides is from any residence, religious assembly or church, library, cultural center, community center, public park, or governmental facility. So
Right.
there's more than just a governmental.
Well, I understand that, but I'm saying even with all of those, I still think that 200 feet on a school or daycare, and then 1,000 feet for the park or the church or the school or whatever, I still think that that's a big conflict. I think that it's when you're talking about people that live out in the country, not within a municipality, and you're thinking about people that have land out here, and you can't plant, if somebody has it within 1,000 feet of you, within 3 blocks of you, you can't smoke it outside. That's like saying where I live, if I look out across the pasture that's in front of my house, 1,000 feet out there, if the person that owns that property wants to get out there and smoke something out under his tree, it's ridiculous that he can't do it on his own property 1,000 feet from my house. Another question I have is,
But this is talking of those, just so we're clear, this is talking about a cannabis establishment, cannabis consumption area, and I don't know that would, consumption area would necessarily mean private citizens could do their cannabis courier may be located. Or
Yep.
actually, this is, the 1,000 feet was a cannabis establishment.
or courier,
No, so section M on section HI, it's I, is a cannabis establishment. So
Okay.
Just so we're clear on the record.
okay,
And all of these things were, this was all, once again, this ordinance is coming to you as a draft ordinance based on other ordinances across the state.
Right.
So at the last meeting, we asked for input from commissioners to tell us what you like, what you don't like, and, try to massage it. So I'm happy to do whatever you want to do in terms of all of these things, because you're right, they're all subject to your approval and review and suggested changes. So
okay.
if you don't like that, what would you like to see is my suggestion.
Well, I would just like that omitted, basically.
Okay,
but-
so
and then-
we could do that to take out. So are you asking then that sections H and I,
I'll tell you what I'm asking, because I also don't like the part about mobile and portable, temporary,
well, let's
or
try to,
temporary unit, because wait a second.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, because I have a whole list of it, so I'll tell you. So when you get to that mobile and stuff, that's also a trailer house. If someone lives in a mobile home and they want to do it out of their mobile home, that ought to be their business there too.
well, I think all I'm asking is that we do this kind of in an orderly fashion, so we don't get lost in the shuffle.
Yes,
So
and
let's-
I have the floor, so what I was
Oh,
going
I'm
to tell
sorry,
you is,
I'm
thank
sorry.
you.
Thank you.
So what I was going to tell you is even though I don't like these things, what I would like to see is I would like to see this go along the same guidelines as alcohol, period. All the way across the board, the same guidelines as alcohol. That's what I would like to see. So however that needs to work, that's what I want.
Real quick, there's a timeline, right? We've got like a,
Well, so the state, so there's a couple of things that I think I'd be remiss in not saying. When I initially looked at this, Amber asked me to try to find a way to provide you with the option of having a moratorium on this. And then I told you about that at the last commission meeting, that I looked at that issue and I couldn't figure out a way where a local governmental body could tell the legislature, we're gonna put a moratorium on a state law. Because I don't think local bodies have that legal authority. However, the Lincoln County has a really bright county attorney, obviously smarter than I am. And he came up with a proposed moratorium that I saw the village of Fort Sumner sent it to me on Friday of last week. And it's a resolution proposing a moratorium until the state adopts their rules governing the implementation of cannabis sales. So one of the problems that we have is that the state's rules relating to how all of this is going to be, how this all is going to be done on the ground are not in place. So it makes it difficult for any of us to be intelligent about what an ordinance should say or what it shouldn't say. So they proposed a moratorium as an alternative until the state rules are in place. So that would give you, if we were to look at that, that might give you more time. I didn't think of that. I mean, I didn't think of that as a possible option, and I'm not sure that even would withstand legal muster, but they're gonna go that route. But coming back to the issue, what Mr. Lopez said, and I apologize for jumping around. On September 1, the law comes into place, and just Ms. Reed brought up some good points about having citizen input, but we don't have a lot of input under the law. I mean, there's not a whole lot you can do. What we are doing here in this ordinance, the legislature has told us that local governments in a 178 page law, they have given local governments 148 lines in that law. It's in section 12, and it's basically says that we have the right, or you have the right, to regulate the time, place, and manner of cannabis sales, manufacturing, and consumption. So this ordinance is an effort to give you a broad view of what you might be able to do if you choose to do so. And I've heard from Chairperson Dixon that, you know, there's a lot of this she doesn't like, and I understand. That's why we want to massage this to make it work. But if there's going to be a law put into place on September 1, Mr. Lopez, so businesses are going to be applying for permits. And if those businesses are allowed to obtain permits, then they're going to be grandfathered in. So they wouldn't be bound by this, whatever ordinance or whatever regulation you put in place. That's the concern. That's the reason why counties are trying to get something in place before people are allowed to have their permits and then say, we're not bound by your local regulation. So I hope that.
And that's my exact point. And with that, members of the board and Madam Chair, I would even propose to see the changes made, amend this current resolution, and possibly call a special meeting before September 1st to address this issue if need be, or do we have another meeting before September 1?
Well, you know, what I'd like to do is we could all sit down and just, you know, maybe have a planning session where we go through this and you tell me what you like and what we don't like, where we can kick it around and propose options. That's what I suggest, but that's your decision.
Maybe the chairperson and vice chair can take this task on. I'll go with you guys. I'm a city county commissioner. You guys are the ones that deal with all the farming, ranching, dairy, that part of the, that's y'all's expertise. So I'm really going to kind of jump on the bandwagon whenever you guys do come up with the changes with it, because you guys have been landowners for many, many years, and you've dealt with farming, ranching, and everything that it entails. So I'm looking for you guys and y'all's expertise to kind of give me some directions and advice and something I could truly look at to make an informed decision based on that. Because it is a very controversial issue, and there's going to be a lot of unforeseen consequences down the road that people just don't realize. But it's happening, and we're a border county, so I'm sure the GRTs are going to be pretty heavy once those Texans come to purchase it. And I know Curry and Lee County are jumping on that wagon quick because they know the benefits they're going to reap.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I have one problem with this ordinance. I've read 3 or 4 times, and I can live with most of it. But there's one part in here I believe is too much governmental control for to be decided, and it is the 4th whereas. Cannabis cultivation, production, manufacturing creates strong odors and can involve use of significant amounts of energy, water, and requires other measures to reduce risk or theft. You can read it. To me, that is just more control over a private citizen's property. Who's to decide what odor smells bad and what odor smells good? Me and my wife have this discussion all the time. We drive by a grain mill. I go, oh, that smells great. She says, that stinks. I wouldn't want to live there, so what you definitely do. Drive by a dairy. Everybody says it stinks. I pile manure up on my field. So now then, do I have to quit doing this? I mean, where do you draw the line in telling a man that's bought and paid for his land with his hard-earned money what he can do with it? It's just more control. We was discussing this earlier about people telling everybody what they should do and what they should believe and where they should. I believe it's an individual's right to make their own sound decisions. If they're harming medically somebody, yes. But I believe that would be a spot for them to have private counsel with their lawyer and I don't believe government should be fighting neighbors, poor neighbors. In that, I would like to strike the 4th whereas where we control where it's grown, the production and the manufacturing of it, where it leaves an opportunity for our neighbors have an opportunity to make more money. I have plenty of people that called when the wind charges is going up. I'm moving out if you let them put them up, Shane. You better vote against it. I didn't move out here to see these winds. I moved out here to see the open skies. My father-in-law and mother-in-law have wind charges in their front yard. Didn't get any. We hear, you know what? We're just proud for our neighbor. I think we need to be more neighborly instead of telling our neighbors what to do. For that, I am not going to support this ordinance if it has the control of a person's private property.
In that private property, is that going to affect, because if we just admit that, will that change all of the fencing, the portable buildings? I mean, if somebody wants to put a trailer house on their private property, because I mean that, to omit that's going to change,
That
to me, would change a
when you
lot.
take out the production and manufacturing of it, you're not going to be able to
Control
tell
any of
them, control them from growing.
So only just the sales is all you want to control, just the sales, not the production.
I just want, well, on me, I would like to know, there's already a law about when you open a business, you have to report your tax income. So when they come in, they're going to have to report their sales and where they're going to sell it. So I don't see any problem with that.
Okay.
Legal has a
So I'd just like to get a clarification. So if I understand, you would adopt this ordinance if we struck the fourth whereas, and in addition, we struck on page 5, section C.
Here.
And then I want to ask you about section M, which you want to keep that in, which provides, or take this out as well. Cannabis producers that cultivate cannabis plants indoors and cannabis manufacturers must fuse industry standard techniques to minimize odorous matter, toxic or noxious matter such as activated carbon filtration and regular maintenance of HVAC systems. That is an effort to try to limit odor, but it gives you some kind of standard. So I'm just asking the question.
Do we
Does
require?
that-
if it's going to be grown indoors,
Well,
and they're filtering, but I'm talking on private property outside.
Okay.
I think there needs to be,
So you're okay with leaving that section in?
Mhm.
Okay, that's all I want
I
to be
am.
clear on. And then if I'm
because
understanding.
what I've read on the state policy, they're not going to be able to use, and when your house, unless you have a private well, you're not going to be able to grow marijuana using public water.
Right.
So anybody that's on co-op or city is not going to be able to grow it in a building in town unless they have their own water, which is going to go back to the water rights deal. If they purchased water rights, then they'll be able to pump it.
Madam Chair, I have another legal question. September 1's the deadline. They're going to implement, to me, there's a lot of unknowns still. So if we were to pass this ordinance, which is being highly recommended that we do before September 1st, would it be subject to change if we needed to change the ordinance?
Absolutely.
See, that's what I thought.
Yeah, you just have to go through the process again
Right.
to change it. But if I'm understanding what's being said here today, and I don't want to
Okay.
make any assumptions, if we were to strike out on page 6, sections H, I,
Wait, I'm trying to find 6.
page 6.
I had that you're looking at now.
What you were concerned about, the distance.
nine right there.
H is 300 feet, strike out I, 1,000 feet.
No, I don't want to strike them. I don't care if we don't strike them out. I just think that a school, and I don't like the 1,000 feet because we're talking about the county, out in the county. We're not talking about city limits. And when you talk about county property, is the county road considered or is it just a county facility?
Oh, it says facility. It
Yeah,
says,
so but it's not a road or anything. It's just a building
It
type.
says facility.
Right, it does, but I didn't know if that was,
No, a road wouldn't be considered.
okay. So,
So what would be considered a facility in the county? Because we don't own the schools. The voluntary.
but they're not in the county, what's in the county?
Fairgrounds is in the city limits.
City limits,
That's city limits.
City
City can
limits.
override what we do.
city, yep. Any municipality can override us. We don't have control over Door, Floyd, Melrose.
Just the fire departments. No, they're
But it's in the
controlled by
city limit. But it's.
Floyd, Arch, and Millen Center are the only two counties.
Yep.
No one's. Nope. Causey's private. There's the only two
Because it's
we
municipality.
take care of.
I didn't hear you. What are the only two?
Millicent Fire Department and the Arch Fire Department are the only two buildings that we have authority over.
How do the fairgrounds fit into county?
But
They
they're
are
the-
inside the city limits, even though they're county property. So that was the deal with the alcohol sale. It was, if we would have, like, let the city take over the fairgrounds kind of property, it's inside the city. So they would collect the tax base along. That was been the problem with the alcohol sales at the fairgrounds for years. This is some of the problem we had. But the fairgrounds is still considered county property, but it's located inside the city limits. So if somebody opened up marijuana, now this, we don't own, the city is, okay, let me explain this. The edge of the fairgrounds, everywhere is city property. So their laws supersede our laws right to the edge of our fairgrounds. Well, same deal with 1,000 feet, 300 feet. We don't control that 300 or 1,000 feet at the edge of our property. We just control on the inside. So we can control the inside of the fairgrounds, but we can't control 10 feet from the gate. The way I understand it.
It's true.
So,
Now, the backside that's out of the city limits on the Bethel Highway, where the privet chicken is, yes, that's county property. You can control 1,000. And I don't know how far because the city went in and took, I don't know how much of the Hamptons farm. Yep. So I don't think the fairgrounds would even be in this discussion for anybody to be selling marijuana at the fairgrounds. I mean, we can put that in our lease agreement that we don't allow marijuana to be. And the same deal is there's laws against smoking in public. I mean, they're not going to be smoking in public. There's laws against that. There's already laws. I don't know why we have to add more
But like
more
it-
laws.
but like at bars, you can smoke outside on the patio. But on these, we can't, they can't even smoke outside of, at a bar.
I don't think you can. I think you have to be so many feet from an entrance.
Like at Kelly's, you can smoke outside. They have a little patio.
That's closed, though. I don't think here.
Windows,
Mhm.
ventilation.
Anyway, I was just thinking that on that 1,000 feet and that 300 feet, I don't see 1,000 feet out in country for people to not be able to do it from a business, from one business to another. I'm fine with a government facility and a daycare or whatever, where you have it with the daycare and all of that at the 300 feet. I mean, I'm fine with that, but let's move all of the church, the assembly, all of the church and all of that, but not from another personal property, somebody else's private property, because that would limit farmers from one field to the next field.
I think that this resolution also coincides with what bigger jurisdictions have to deal with, where you have Sandoval, Bernalillo County right there, and within the county and within the city limits, there's like a lot of industrial companies, corporations, businesses, and so forth. So I don't know how much that language would pertain to. I think it's a moot issue with the widespread county that we have. And once we're outside of the city limits, there's really nothing.
But 1,000 feet from one person's property to another person's property, we share fence line.
Right.
And so if you're going from real property, that stops you right there because you're on their property. What if I own, 3 sections this way, but just because this guy's right here by my fence, mine's all attached.
What if I'm a small farmer in Arch? That I have 15 acres that I raise my ducks, my chickens on. Everybody's gonna know what I'm talking about. And I want to grow 5 acres because I have my water rights, I have everything. I can make enough money to support me and my family and work 5 acres. But now my neighbor who lives across the road, 200 feet from me, can come to the chair, the board, and say, I don't want him growing that across the road from me. And that's the only piece of land that man owns. Little old piece right there. So now he is back in the same boat he was at, that he has no opportunity to better himself. And it's being done by big corporations and big money that can go out and buy a big chunk, and they go right to the center and do whatever they feel like. That's why I don't stand for it. I think it takes the little man out of the opportunity to make money like the corporations.
Why don't we just strike it? I, it seems that's an easy fix. Let's just take that. Strike I out of it.
Because there's none of those out there anyway.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's an easy
Strike I.
fix.
If we take it out, which that's logical, then will the state statute, instead of that 1,000 feet be set by the county, will then the state statute regulate it to be 1,000?
Well, you're asking a great
We haven't
question.
got it voted on
because
yet.
We don't know what the state regulations are gonna be yet, because they haven't been adopted yet.
They could supersede. We
With-
can only be stricter than what
That's,
the statute says.
well, yeah, although the legislature said we control time, place, and manner, so I doubt that's what they're gonna be.
Time,
concerned
place,
about,
matter to
but
be sold, not grown,
that's true.
sold.
I mean, I think based on what I'm hearing,
That's right.
we should just strike I and strike the sections we already referenced with Shane, and you've got something, that sounds like you could live with, and we are always able to amend it at a later date if you want to, but at least this way we'd have something in place, September 1. But that's
So
your
what's the
decision
final
on
thing?
mine.
What was, we talked about striking I in the fourth
And the
whereas?
provisions I mentioned with you, which I think we ought to just go
Fourth-
over again for
fourth
the
one.
record, so we're all on the same page, is to strike out the fourth, on page 1, the fourth whereas, dealing with cannabis consumption can create strong odors. Page 5, this is section 4, paragraph C, cannabis cultivation, production, manufacturing creates strong odors. Page 6, which once again is section 4, striking the minimum separation distance of 1,000 feet. Striking, and I think those are the sections that we've discussed so far to strike, because I haven't heard anything else. Now, I do want to, I think last time, Commissioner Lee brought up the cost of the permit, and I'm not sure that our permit cost can be $250 for the initial permit, because I don't think we could charge more than what we charge other businesses. So
Mhm.
that one would be another one that I at least wanted to bring back to the commission's attention. As I know Clovis is gonna try to charge $1,000 within the municipality, and I think it's gonna be an interesting thing whether they're
What, do we know what we charge other businesses?
we don't have any, do we have a county registration?
So we
It's
get,
between that range, between 5 and 75.
how can we have a range for businesses? I mean, wouldn't all businesses just pay the same license?
It's based on the previous year's gross receipts tax. So a little business that does cooking doesn't make over $75,000 a year. 1% of that.
Oh, so it's based on 1%.
And if it's a new business and they do not have that,
Do you think, not sure, I was asked legal, do you believe there's a legal problem with charging more than what we charge other people?
That's what I've come to understand, is that we can't, because you're creating a disparate class of business. You can't make marijuana businesses different than any other business. In other words, you can't try to restrict, because some municipalities want to try to restrict this And the thought was, well, we'll just put in these big fees to permitting fees and regulatory costs.
So do we
You
need to,
can't use the regulation to try to restrict the industry, is what the legislature's told us, that's outside your power.
so do we need to strike that from our ordinance of $250 to the legal fees listed at the Roosevelt
I think
County?
you're gonna be smarter in the long run to do that, because you're gonna likely be challenged on it. Yes, sir. I think it should be consistent with other-
And I've got a curiosity question, since we're honored to have a city councilman and our RCCDC director here, Madam Chair. I just got a real quick question. Have you received through your office any inquirements on people wanting to come in, purchase land, or that have land and that want to actually grow here?
I've only had one, but yes.
It has
Yeah,
happened.
It's a comma.
Okay.
It's a producer, a laboratory, and a testing laboratory. So we just want to take out that part.
Yeah.
Right, okay. On section 6,
What page?
on, I think it's going to be page 8. It's the very top of page 8, where it says the section, section 6, the fencing, to just take out the each cannabis producer. Leave the research laboratory and the testing laboratory, but not the producer.
Okay.
And we can come back later. I do believe in striking that.
And my one thing was on this one, like, if somebody lives in a mobile home, they can't, but I can let that one slide. I can,
If I may just interject something just real quick. I think most people will try to do micro licenses, which enable that person to grow up to 200 plants for that business, and then sell it at their own business. So I think that's gonna be the model that most of them are gonna initially go. You know, there's gonna be the big producers, the, Hicks Valleys and all those that have the 1,000 or 2,000 plant limits. But I think you're gonna see small businesses attack or go for the 200 plants. Because you do the math, 200 plants, you get 4 grow cycles. That's 800 plants times, 1 pound or 2 pounds you get per plant. That's a lot of money someone can generate for themselves. So I think micro licenses are gonna be what it's gonna be at.
Good point. I didn't think of that. That's a
But
great
neither
point,
did-
especially for a small municipality like ours in county.
Does anybody else have anything they'd like to say on this? Anybody got anything?
With that, is if there's nothing more to say, I'll make a motion to accept the strikes we made in the resolution.
Ordinance.
Ordinance. Yeah, we're getting me way off here. And accept at this time.
I'll second. Make a motion to second, Mr. Greider. Do you have something?
Could you restate this question,
The question.
the motion?
Oh,
I
The
made the
motion.
motion to accept the ordinance as is with the strikes we made today.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And yours was a yes vote?
Yes.
Okay, yes.
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 Motion carries. Okay, you can.
Yes.
Yes, this will be published.
Public.
Yes. And Lily, do they go to that legal on the paper, right? Am I right?
We have copies for them to view. Is that what you're talking about, viewing the ordinance?
The finalized.
We haven't, this ain't the finalized one yet, is it?
This would be the
Yes, this was
finalized
it.
one.
This is
Yes.
final.
Was this the third meeting? Okay. We did that earlier. I'm getting off count.
So they can view it, just to come to the clerk's office? Is that where they view it?
The administration office.
Okay, come to the admin and you
We
can
need to
view
check.
it.
And just for clarification, this is something that can come up again to be revised
Mhm.
in proper channels. So, okay.
I'll make a motion to come out of public hearing.
Well, now then I gotta, we was in.
We need to come out of public hearing first.
Yeah. we
I
got-
know, now we
That
gotta
was a
vote
long
again.
topic
Gosh.
conversation.
I'll make a motion to come out of public hearing.
Second.
Got a motion to second, Mr. Lopez?
Yes.
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 Do I need to restate my
You do.
vote? I mean, my
Motion.
Motion. Oh, it's warm in here. Somebody turn the air conditioner.
You know what? It is, I was cold when I first
We
got
all
here. I was
wrapped up.
freezing and now it's hot.
With that, Madam Chair, I'll make the motion to accept the ordinance as is with the strikes made in the public hearing.
And I will second that motion. Commissioner Greider?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes,
Motion still carries.
it's warm in here.
it is.
Okay. 9A, request for approval of funding agreement 21 ZF 9142 with Department of Finance. Ms. Rivera.
Yes, so I would like to request approval for this $50,000 grant. It is to develop and maintain a medical assistant treatment program within the detention center to create a more advanced and comprehensive substance abuse program.
I will make,
I
go ahead.
I will move to approve agenda 9A as presented by Liliana.
Second?
Got a motion to second. Commissioner Lopez?
Yes,
Yes.
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 Motion carries. Request for approval of contract renewal Desert West Enterprise. Ms. Rivera.
Yes, so this is one of our road department contracts. And Desert West has been performing and very responsive, so we would like to go ahead and request to approve and renew this contract with them.
Is there any changes in the contract? That-
It's in the announcement.
With that, I'll make a motion to approve the contract with the Desert West Enterprises.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Commissioner Greider?
Yes.
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 Yes,
Motion carries. Request for approval of memorandum of understanding between City of Portales and Roosevelt County for the placement of secured lock boxes. Ms. Park.
This memorandum of understanding between us and the city would be for a secure ballot drop box at the Memorial Building. The legislature mandated that we do provide secure ballot drop boxes. So our locations are here at the courthouse, at the fairgrounds, where the J. Lopez is already a voting location, and at the Memorial Building, which is also already a voting location. So it's just the agreement between us and the city to allow us to put it there.
With that, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Commissioner Lopez.
yes.
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 Meeting adjourned.
Wow, it got warm.
Now there.
It did get. Yeah. Oh, good. Okay. Yeah. We have to sign stuff.